Om Sahana Vavatu Sano Bonaktu Saviryam Karavavai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Gurudeva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapiyat Sarvam Trailokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Narshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Shri Chinmaya Sadgurave Namaha. Om Shri Chinmaya Sadgurave Namaha. Om Shri Chinmaya Sadgurave Namaha. So I feel I have to do so many disclaimers with the parenting talk. And the first thing I want to say is, you're already good parents. Like, nothing in this talk is implying that y'all are not good parents. And in fact, the fact that you're interested in a parenting talk already proves you're very good parents. And the rishis would say, Gurudev would say that when Bhagwan gave you the child, he also gave you the expertise that were necessary for the child. And you might not think so. You might think, I really don't know what I'm doing. But you know enough. And mother's intuition, father's intuition is incredibly powerful, especially when they're younger. And fair enough, as they get to teenager, that intuition kind of is highly diluted. But it's not God, right? It's nowhere near God. I think you still have a sense of what, in terms of need, maybe not in terms of desire. So first and foremost, I don't think there's bad parents. Secondly, there's so much out there in terms of parenting. Like if you Google it or if you YouTube it, there's so many different approaches and there's so many different people talking on each approach also. And I think it goes through kind of some fashions in terms of parenting also, right? I think there was that era where there was all this conscious parenting material, and that became very popular. And then there was that era of, what was her name? The one that was like a Hitler? No, it was a particular person who wrote a book. And it was like, be structured and be... Yeah. There was that whole fashion when her book came out. And so it's interesting that parenting also goes in fashions. And if you look at the generations, definitely parenting has gone in waves. And it almost feels like each generation is just experimenting
with the next generation, trying to correct the mistakes they think their parents make, which maybe they later on in life they figure out, actually maybe there wasn't a mistake the way my parents did it. As a kid, I thought it was a mistake, but as an adult now, in hindsight, I realized it was fine. So, those are, there's no right. In terms of style and in terms of which way to go about it, there's no right. What will determine is two very important things: the personality of the kid and your personality as a parent. So I know when I teach, and I'm teaching teachers how to teach, there's definitely people who can't do things I do. Not because of I'm a Swamini, but just because of personality. Like, for example, when I teach teenagers, I'm extremely cheeky. But not everyone can be cheeky. So it has to be true to who you are. So even as a parent, like some parents I know can be so sarcastic with their kids. And it suits them, and it's who they are. And then some are just gentle by nature, and then they have to be true to their personality. And then it's that match, it's that match between your personality and the kid's personality. And sometimes it doesn't match. But it's okay, because there's two of you. And they'll get what they need from either one in every situation. So I would still say it is more important that you be true to the style and approach that's you, that suits you, and that suits your personality. Okay, so there's about 2-3 things that are true for parenting overall, and then there's some specific things about parenting teenagers. And I'm going to do the ones that are true for parenting overall very quickly, and then we'll focus on parenting teenagers. So I think the first one is that to acknowledge that when a child comes, they haven't come as a clean slate. They've come as souls on a journey from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime. And so they've come with a predetermined set of aptitude, personality types, and experiences that they have to go through. And so you can't actually change the future of your child. You can maybe equip them for it. You can maybe guide them in terms of choices they make, and certainly some choices are making their lives easier, and some going to be making their lives a bit harder, but we can't actually fundamentally change who they are. And so it's been going on in the Western world since eons, the debate between nature and nurture. And 100% nature of a person will significantly feature in who they are. But it's also 100% that nurture significantly features in who they are. And so we have these camps. We used to have teenage camps, but we have these youth camps in Coimbatore every single year. And people from all over the world come. So Singapore, Australia, London, some Americans, and then our Indians are there as well. Local Indians come as well. And it's so clear, not just by their accent, but it's so clear where a person is from, because you can see the influence of London on the London Indians. You can see the influence of America on the American Indians. You can see Asia's influence like this. Even within Asia, there's a distinct difference between Manila, Jakarta versus Singapore, Hong Kong. And so nurture 100% features. The way we bring them up, the environment we put them in, definitely features. Even the type of school they go to does change their values, their attitude, their level of respect, their outlook on life. And so is what we do making a difference? 100%. And so it's almost like there's this core to the kid that can't be changed, and they just are who they are. And then there's the padding around that, which we influence, we change, we are creating. But as parents, to know that they are on their own journey is very, very important. That we can't decide the experiences they're going to have. They are going to have the experiences that they have. Now, sure, we want to protect them, but in truth, maybe that's not our job. Now, of course, we protect them physically, make sure they're eating nutritious, dressed warm, and in an environment where there's no physical harm and violence. But we can't protect them from friends not wanting to play with them. We can't protect them from people not liking them back. We can't protect them from gossip or sometimes even bullying. These are just experiences every single one of us experience. All of us go through it. Even we went through it as kids, and so it's unreasonable to expect that they're not going to go through it. And so to have that realistic expectation of what you can do and it's just not in your hands to do. Creating their future is not in your hands to do. Equipping them to face their future, we can significantly contribute to that. So this is the first thing that's true for all parenting. And then I think the second thing, which is true for all parenting, but is possibly a little bit more applicable to parenting teenagers, is that there's a fundamental difference in parenting to parent them and parenting for them to like you. As people, we naturally want other people to like us. And then think about it in terms of just general society. What do we do when we want other people to like us? We give in to do the things that will ensure they like us. Yeah, we fit in so that they like us. Unfortunately, we bring this to us even with parentings. Sometimes we bring it too much into parenting because we so desperately want the kid to like us. If they say, "You horrible mom," or "You're a horrible dad," or "Why can't you be like so-and-so's mom?" we feel so incredibly wounded. And what's interesting is every kid says it. And they say it at very early on, huh? And so, pakka 100% your teenager is going to say it to you. And they may not say you're a horrible mom, but they'll say, "Oh, you're so annoying." Or "You're so embarrassing," with the eye roll. 100% they're going to say that to you. And then this is where the challenge comes. If we try to parent for them to like us, It's a nightmare. So even as young as toddlers, if we parent for them to like us, we spoil them. We completely spoil them. We make them think it's okay for them to make demands and get everything they want. And then life becomes really hard for them because you're the only person that's going to give in to all their demands. Others aren't. The rest of the world's not interested in giving in to all their demands. So, good parenting is to detach from wanting them to like you, which I know is really hard, right? Because the most important thing to us is family, and we want to feel close, and we want to feel connected, and we think, we want to keep the peace. I don't know if it's keeping peace as much as just wanting them to not say horrible things about us. So I'm going to ask you a question. How many of you have told your parents, "You're so annoying, you're so embarrassing, I wish you weren't my parents"? Plenty of you have said it. Very good. How many of you have thought it? As kids. As kids, not now. As kids. Yeah. Now, do you really regret having even thought it? Would you still continue to think they were bad parents? Do you recognize they weren't perfect? Do you think they were bad? That's exactly what will happen with your kids. When will they recognize? Well, when did you recognize? Took a while, right? In some ways, we acknowledge that they're kids and they don't have maturity because we're telling them what to do. You don't know. I know better than you. And then in some ways, we treat them like adults because we think they should like us and understand where we're coming from. They're not going to understand where we're coming from. They're just not going to. They just don't have that maturity. They just don't have that life experience to know where we're coming from. And so it's a completely unreasonable expectation of us to expect it from them. They're going to be kids who are immature and think we don't know what we're doing. And that shouldn't change the way we behave. So, in terms of our spiritual pursuit, the most important quality, or I should say the first quality that is asked, the scriptures prescribe us to have, is a quality of vivek. Viveka means the difference between, the ability to tell the difference between two things. So right and wrong, and real and unreal. Now it's very interesting that in your parenting journey, it's very important you have this. The ability to tell right and wrong, as parents you need to know. But even the difference between real and unreal, as parents you really need to know this. Even as a small kid, when they come to you saying their tummy sore, are they faking? Is this real? Are they really sick? Sometimes not so easy to tell, right? Or they can be such drama kings and queens and be like so upset when actually they're not upset at all, huh? They can just totally have you wrapped around their finger if you don't know the difference between real, unreal. So, and then the second quality that is prescribed to us by the scriptures is vairagya, detachment. Now, most parents think, how can you expect me to detach from my kid? They're my kid. Please know, it has nothing to do with love. You definitely love your kid. I don't even tell you you should love your kid. Of course you love your kid. And detaching from them doesn't take away from loving them even a minuscule amount. Love is not at all affected by detaching. What is this detaching? This detaching is not wanting them to like me. Again, I'm going to go back to this camp we do in Coimbatore with all the teenagers. Now, teenagers, as you have teenagers, you are very familiar with this. They can be so, what's the word? Yeah, that's the word. They can be so infuriating. So in the camp we have, just basic rules. Get to class on time, and then lights out at a certain time, and don't waste food. We don't even have very elaborate rules. We have just very basic rules. And then we herding them along to get these rules, like don't be on class, don't be late for class, so And so we come on, move it. And then, of course, they don't. Like, they'll still insist on walking slower than any donkey. Look, here in Hong Kong, when they're walking on the MTR, we know they're capable of walking this fast, but no, going to class, even though Swamiji is already there. Can you get to... dragging their feet, walking. And so then, eventually the sevikas scream, yell, discipline. And then there's consequences for actions, and then finally they'll do what they want to do. And I remember one camp, the sevikas were all with me. I was being strict, they was being strict, all the teenagers were in class on time. It was awesome. And then Camp 2 came around, and these three sevikas looked at me and they said, we're not going to tell them anything. And I was like, but that's your job. No, then they don't like us and they say mean things about us. And we're in the dorm and we can hear them saying mean things to us. It's too painful, then I cry, and I'm not doing this. And it's true, huh? They can be so nasty in what they say. I myself have cried many on occasions when it's like, whoa. And they can be so intense in the way that they say it. When you've got 150 of them, it's really intense. Like just one camp, not being liked. Just they won't be disciplining the kids again. So easy to just want to be liked. Don't want to be seen as strict, mean, or the one that's not fun, the one that's boring, the one that's old-fashioned, the one that's and year after year, I'm the strict one. And an interesting thing happens. Absolutely, they don't like you. Yeah. And then they get older. And they find. They all come back. They all come back. And so often they'll tell me, I used to really be scared of you. You were always shouting at everyone. And I'll be like, sounds familiar. But they hear, they know. They still helping with doing seva and all the rest of it. So, even when they're young and they make a comment, it hurts. When they get to teenager and they make a comment, they make sure it hurts. Like when they're young, they don't do it deliberately. Right? They'll say things and it hurts. But as teenagers, they're doing it deliberately. Why? Why are they like this? So the first thing you have to understand is hormones. Starts to kick in at around about 9, actually. Yeah. And so if you see the developmental progress of a child, they are extremely receptive in the womb. Even in the womb, when the brain is developing, the child is extremely receptive. And then from age 0 to 4, their brain is working at the highest it ever works in our whole life. Isn't that interesting? Our brain works the best between ages 0 to 4, and after that it's all downhill. And then from 5 to 9, what happens is cognitive skills get locked into place at the appropriate time. So things like they learn empathy at around about the age of 7. They learn discrimination. They learn subtle thinking. They learn abstract thinking. And but by the age of 9, latest 10, they have complete function of the brain. And so a 10-year-old's brain is equivalent to an adult's brain in terms of capacity, not in terms of maturity. And that's why you'll have these kids that are like prodigies and they learn so many things and they can do so many things, and you can have 9-year-olds figuring out trigonometry problems that, even architects in building bridges can't figure out, and this 9-year-old figure it out, and you think, wow, the 9-year-old is so smart. Yes. In fact, probably easier for the 9-year-old because they're not so tired of doing the same problems again and again, because they have complete capacity of all cognition by 10. But I repeat, that doesn't mean they have maturity. They can understand concepts, reasoning, logic, but not necessarily have the maturity to live it, to know it, and know the depth of it, or the implication of it. Right? So, growth from womb to 10 is when they grow. Brain grows beautifully from womb to 10. Then body takes over. Now it's body's turn to grow. And so you have this increase in hormones, which for men will bring out all that, and for women will bring out all that. And while these hormones are at their highest to bring about physiological changes in the body, the brain dips in its capacity to work. Literally, you're the dumbest between 11 and 14. This is where they are lethargic and they non-responsive and they just so you want to shake them because they're not doing anything. Even when you're talking to them, they're looking at you like, like a wall. You might as well have a conversation with a wall because they're so non-responsive. And you're thinking to yourself, I know you understand. Yes, they understand because all cognition has been developed by 10, but it's gone on holiday because hormones have taken over and the brain is actually not actively stimulated. The hormones have given all priority to the changes that are happening at the body, and so they are feeling more than they are thinking. And they are not even completely in control of what they are feeling. So, number one, this is happening. Then after 14, they're not so bad, huh? You're thinking, depends on the kid. Nah, usually not so bad. Usually the worst is over by 14. We'll talk about parenting style. So this is happening. Simultaneously, they are having this revelation. What revelation are they having? So as kids, we think our parents are perfect. Kids. 3-year-old, 4-year-olds, you come to Shishu class. You know, Daddy is equivalent to Superman. Mom is the most amazing person under the sun. They are our sun and moon. You've experienced this phase with your kids. And then, remember, cognition kicks in at 7, 8, 9, cognition kicks in. And part of that cognition is to understand discrepancies between what we say and what we do. It's to be able to see clearly flaws or not ideals. And we teach them, and they naturally have very high ideals. Don't lie is an absolute term for them. And then they see us lie. Yeah. Pray to Krishna, bow down. And then they see we don't. And so now that full cognition has clicked in, they recognize we are not perfect. These parents who they thought were perfect are not perfect. Worse, they're highly flawed. Then you look over at Nani and Nana and Dadi and Dada and Chachi and Chachu, and all of them are flawed. Then you're looking at your teachers, and aren't teachers supposed to be the ones giving us knowledge? And they're flawed. And suddenly, they see the whole world is incredibly flawed. And they are heartbroken. It's like their whole world has just shattered. And it has. Because they've seen it one way, and now cognition has kicked in and they see it a different way, and this is the truth, and I was deluded the whole time, and so they're really angry at you. Why? Because they think you tricked them. Did you trick them? No. You were just you. But they didn't see you. They saw this beautiful version of you. And then when they see you, they're very annoyed at you for not being the beautiful version of you and being you. Their fault? No. Your fault? No. Just journey of a kid. How many of you can remember this moment in your life? When you saw your parents as people rather than mom and dad? No? Quite a few of you. I remember it. I remember the moment where I saw my parents were just people. Like just normal, ordinary people. It's like, it's horrifying. So, 1, huge hormonal increase, brain on staycay, and 2, they completely disillusioned with the reality which they now recognize. makes for very frustrating, grumpy, moody teenagers. And then if we try to make them like us at that stage, you're shooting yourself in the foot. The age is to not like you. Yeah. And so don't bother. Don't bother trying to make them like you. But you're going to lose your kids. Nah. Where will they go? They got nowhere to go. They're going to come back to you only. Like I said, by 14, the confusion clears. The hormones usually clear. The reality check usually clears. And they come back to realizing you're not that bad. Usually by 14 already, they've started realizing you're not that bad. But now they've said you're bad for like a whole 3 years, so they can't, lose face. So they have to stick to it. So, then I'm going to focus on one more thing. So, the scriptures actually tell us the spiritual evolution of each soul, each jiva. And it says so in the way we live our lives, as a nice way for us to be able to reflect on the parenting journey as well. So when baby is born, the most important person to baby is mother. And therefore in the scriptures it's Matru-deva Bhava. The first person we see as God, the first person we love, the first person we revere is mother. Sorry, dads. And that's just by virtue of you recognize her from the womb. And then breastfeeding is still the best way to feed a child, and that's also mother, right? And as a baby, you're just completely dependent on mom. She's the one who knows when you're hungry. Even if somebody else is changing diapers, she's the one that knows when you're hungry, because breast will feel full and she'll know you are hungry. So it's all biologically geared for mom to be the provider, caretaker, nurturer. Maybe the first year or so. Then they start getting fairly responsive, and then dads come in. Right? But even before that, dads come in, because they're very familiar with dad's voice. They're very familiar with the way mom feels towards dad, which is interesting. Their first introduction to dad is the way mom feels towards dad, even in the womb. Yeah. They're very aware of what mom is feeling. And so the second statement in the scriptures is Pitru-deva Bhava. And this in itself is considered evolution. So mom's stereotype tends to just nurture, pamper, love unconditionally, whatever they do. Dads, I know, stereotype, I know it doesn't apply. Bring in the first form of strictness and structure. I know it's a stereotype. I know lots of dads are super strong, soft, and the mums are the ones that are strong. But just going with the masculine being hard, feminine being soft. Even in yoga, masculine is considered hard, feminine is considered soft. Even in terms of muscles, right? Like you want to build strength, and that's called yang, and yang is masculine. You want to build flexibility, that's yin, and yin is feminine. It's got nothing to do with physical gender. It's just got to do with the quality of masculine in being strength and softness being, feminine. And so when we're born, it's yin. It's soft. Newborn baby needs lots of softness. Even you speak to them in soft voice. Even loud sounds scare them. Right? So you need lots of gentleness. And then a little bit structure. If they're going around breaking things, You need that no. That's bringing in strength. Or if they're about to hurt themselves, you bring in that strong, and that's usually associated with masculine. I'm not sure why, but it is. Traditionally and in all cultures, Although many a times in the family I've seen it's the mom that's the strict one and it's the dad that's the soft one. But traditionally associated with masculine being strong. So, Matrudeva Bhava, Pitrudeva. Our evolution, our need is, we need softness, and then we need strength. And so if you think about it, even in terms of our mental needs, initially we just need love and nurturing, and then we need structure. We need discipline. We need guidance. All associate with father. All of that gets associated with father, although both parents are doing everything. Okay? This is just in terms of understanding evolution of development. And then it is said in the scriptures, Guru Deva Bhava. And you need wisdom. You need knowledge. And then the learning doesn't happen from teachers alone. Very quickly, already by the age of 5, 6, 7, more learnings happen from friends than teacher. Yeah. So first you need parents and people of wisdom, and then you need friend. Who's their go-to already by 6? Who's their go-to? Not you. Friend. In fact, they'll tell you if their friend's name is Sasha. Sasha said, like, why should I wear this? No, you're not going to wear that. I have to wear this. Why? Because Sasha said. Why are you watching this TV program? Because, and it's what their friends are saying to them. And of course, they quote you till about max 7, Like you'll see the 3-year-old, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds saying, my mommy said, my daddy said. But after that, you don't hear it. And if after that you hear it, everybody else laughs at them. The other day in the Balvihar class, I said, Sanskrit is the oldest language. And this one young boy said, no, Tamil is the oldest language. My father said. Tamilians do say that Tamil is the oldest language. Sanskrit is the oldest language. But it's not common. After the age of 6, it's not my dad says, my mom does. Even though what mom and dad says has gone in and has very much become our foundation, it's what friend says that now is what's being listened to and what's being done. Okay, so that's our natural evolution. Not them. Our natural evolution. And so how should we parent? It's explained to us that in the first 3-4 years of their life, like mother, pamper, spoil, not spoil, pamper, allow, accept, tolerate. The minute they get to 4, discipline, give structure. When they get to 12, I'm sorry to say this because most of you all have come here wanting to know what to do as parents for kids over 12. Nothing you do matters anymore. They have actually already imbibed 80% of who they are. You have 20% to work with. By 12, we already know who we are. It doesn't look that way, not even to them, not to you, but it's the truth. By 12, we stop listening to anyone else. We make up our own minds. So now how do you parent? This is probably the hardest thing you're going to have to do. You have to stop parenting like a parent and start parenting like a friend. What does that mean? Well, you still do have to give definite do's and don'ts. They allowed to come home, which time, how much money, all of that have very definite, distinct, you still parent as a parent. But in terms of everything else, you parent as, well, you have to think about it. It would be wise if you do it this way. I would highly recommend you do it this way. But now really, you have to make up your own mind. It can't be because I told you so. It just won't work. Except if money's involved, then it works. So they don't get to make choices based on things that you can afford or not afford. They only get to make choices about who they are and who they're not, and how they want to manage their time, their energy, their resources. So parenting as a friend. We all have friends. And when we care about our friends, we definitely tell them what we're thinking. The difference is we don't expect them to listen. Right? When you parent as a parent, you tell them what you're thinking and you expect them to listen. When you parent as a friend, you tell them what you're thinking, and please do tell them. But don't expect them to listen. So, I think those were the most important things I wanted to tell you. And we can leave the last bit for question answer. So y'all can let me know on which points you'll want me to now elaborate on. Wow. I thought I'd have so many questions. One second.
No pressure. If you have two children, and obviously they're very different personalities, and you have to parent both of them differently, but then one of them says, but you let this one do this, and you let this one. And it's very hard because you know you're doing the right thing for that kid, but how do you explain to the other kid?
So when they say that's not fair, usually my reply is, that's right, it's not. Life is so unfair. It's as simple as that. Because they're not going to understand. It's unrealistic of us to expect them to understand. That we are different, they are different, circumstances are different. No, that's fine. No problem. So we don't have to give them an explanation for everything we do. That's what I said. They don't have to like us. They really don't have to like us. I mean, gosh, we just saying one personality is different. My generation, there was a definite set of rules for boys, different set of rules for girls, and that was definitely colossally unfair. Yeah. That wasn't even based on personality. So, yeah, you don't have to explain it to them. So, it is what it is. They have to deal, and that's really good parenting. When they know that they just have to deal, that's good parenting, because so much of life we have to deal. Like even as Indians, when we have to face prejudice, we have to deal, right? In Hong Kong, we've all experienced taxi drivers not stopping for us because we are Indian. Deal. You can't go and make a whole big rant about it's not fair. The next taxi stops. Get in. Get on with it. It's not fair. It's not. It's definitely not fair. So many things that happen. When COVID happened, it wasn't fair. Y'all had to make the kids take vaccines. Oh my God, as if that was fair. We deal. We don't have to sit and explain to them why we do the things we do. They don't have the maturity to understand. So, best to make light of it. You poor creature, your life's so tough. I feel your pain. And then they'll roll their eyes and they'll go off. We don't need to be upset just because they are upset. If they're very genuinely upset, then you can sit and explain. Each person is different. When a farmer is farming oranges and a farmer is farming apples, he makes different conditions. He plants the seeds differently. He gives a different amount of water. You are not your sibling. Your sibling needs more water, less water. You need more water, less water. It just is the way it is. Because that's what we're doing, right? We're just farmers, helping them grow. And each plant is different, and each crop is different. So if they're genuinely upset, you can explain it to them. But mostly they're not genuinely upset. Mostly they're just tantruming, seeing if they can push. So much of what they do is to see if they can push, and they do. They're very successful. They manage. They totally manage to poke. And then if they get a reaction, do you realize that when you react, that's success for them? They got a reaction. They're going to poke harder next time. It's just human nature. When you get what you want, you're going to make sure you do more of it next time. They got a reaction from you, they're going to just do it more. If you don't, then you don't have to like me, it's fine. I know it's hard. I really know it's hard, but it will make your life so much easier, huh? It'll make their lives easier too. Because actually when they poke you to get reaction, it's exhausting for them as well. And when they poke and they don't get a reaction and then they can't be bothered, it's suddenly easier for them also. Otherwise you get caught in this tango of emotions.
Their development where they realize you're not perfect. You said that creates anger and outrage, like the world is flawed, my parents are flawed. And does that happen at the same age for every child? And is it always coming from a place of anger and distress?
Yeah. So no, it doesn't happen at the same age for every child. Somewhere as early as 8, definitely by 10, latest 11. You never had it? You would have had it. They would have been, for some kids it's more stark. For some kids they're more mature and they're able to just let it go. So it lasts a couple of months. But definitely everyone goes through it. The moment where you realize your parents are just people and not your parents. Yeah. And is it always devastating? It's always devastating. It's like discovering there's no Santa Claus. What? There's no tooth fairy? No! You feel like you've been cheated of something. I mean, kids today don't believe in Santa Claus and tooth fairy, although I have met a few who do still believe in tooth fairy. Huh?
My 11-year-old still does, so I want to still keep it that way.
Yeah.
I don't want to change that.
Huh? Afterwards, it becomes a choice whether you believe it.
I think it's probably because of the gifts.
Because of the?
When you give the gifts.
They want the gifts. You'll give gifts for the tooth fairy? Cash, yeah, cash. Santa. Oh, Santa, they want the gifts. Oh, Santa isn't even our tradition. It's fine if they don't believe in Santa. Believe in Krishna. Like, that's real. In fact, even tooth fairy isn't our tradition. Yeah, all these made-up things. Hindus believe in real. So.
At this age, they go through a lot of emotions.
They do go through a lot of emotions,
And
yes.
how do you help them understand that?
What emotions are?
Yeah. Because I think a lot of times they're poking you because they don't understand
What they're feeling.
and you can't help them because you don't understand what they're going through. So how do you help them?
So they're not necessarily poking you because they can't understand their emotions. But they'll definitely take it out on you when they can't understand their emotions. And so in a way, even though it's hard for you to be dumped on, it's a blessing that they feel safe enough with you, right? And so that's why I said it's an important quality to know real from unreal. Like they're screaming and shouting at you, but it's not you they're upset with, then actually it's okay to let them scream and shout at you. But not if you know it's not you. Right? If they're screaming and shouting at you and you feel it's you they're screaming and shouting at, it's hard. But if they're screaming and shouting at you and you know it's not you they're upset with, it's just world at large or hormones playing up, you won't feel as bad. In fact, you'll think, okay, you're home, you're safe, scream as much as you want. So, and that's why it's really important to not want them to like you. So when they suddenly start screaming and shouting and you look at them like, and then you think, okay, you just need outlet. Fine, some days I need outlet. Go ahead. But don't be mean. You can have that rule. So, because in fact they can't scream and shout at their friends. They won't have friends anymore. So they can only scream and shout at you. And you can have a limit of how much you will allow and how much you won't allow. And a lot of it will be on how secure you are that this is me, this is not me. Like, when they're much younger and they're really hungry and they're really tired and then they start misbehaving, you don't feel bad. You know they just died. Yeah. It's okay. They being bratty, they just died. And you don't take it personally You don't get overly upset when you understand what's going on, right? So, in fact, when we have camps, when we have full day camps and the kids are with us, and by night when they start getting groggy after dinner, we don't discipline them anymore. Because that's not the time to discipline. They're tired. Yeah. So, one, when they have lots of emotions, sometimes they just need outlet, and it's got nothing to do with you. And that's why it's important to have that viveka. Also, the dispassion, to be able to, when they're screaming and yelling, to be able to see it for what it is. Yeah. Two, if they really are having emotions and they don't understand their emotions, first and foremost, again, our detachment to understand that it's a journey. They'll figure it out. Yeah. And then comfort them by letting them know everything doesn't have to make sense now. Sometimes it takes a while to figure it out. It's okay if you haven't figured it out yet. Even with us as adults, it's not like everything makes sense all the time. It's okay if it doesn't make sense. We'll give it time. It will make sense. And then that's a beautiful thing you're teaching them. Right? Patience. With something we just all desperately, continuously need. So don't try and always fix it for them. Sometimes just let them know that what they need to do is be patient. And they themselves will start to understand what they're feeling. And the hormone phase passes, right? I promise you it passes. I promise you they'll be nice again. You just have to endure them for those few years. Say what you have to say. Don't expect them to listen. Oh, there was one more thing I was going to say. I've forgotten it. Any other questions? You're going to go. 8 o'clock, 1 hour is over. Yep. Yeah. The last thing I wanted to say to all of you is, if we touch something, it will leave an impression. You can think of your phone, a glass, even skin. If we touch something, it's going to leave an impression. And so, every single parent leaves their impression on their kid. And sometimes I think you're too scared of mucking up. Whatever it is you do will leave an impression. And of course you want to leave the best impression. But they're gonna 100% love you. How can I be so sure? Because you love them. It's as simple as that. If you love them, they're going to love you. So don't be so scared. whatever impression we leave on them, as long as it's our best. There's going to 100% be things they will complain about, even once they're fully grown, and say they never going to do what we did to them. Just like we say to our parents, we never going to do to our kids what our parents did to us. There's going to 100% be a few of those. And like I said, sometimes only when we're much older we realize, actually, what they did wasn't so bad. So, when a child is born, it's the soul that chooses its parents. And so this is your get out of jail free card. When the kid's complaining, you like this and you like that, you chose me. You knew what you were getting into. Now you deal. And I say it as a joke, but it's true. Even at the level of the soul, it's true. They chose you for who you are and what you give them. So really you don't have to beat yourselves up so much as parents. Your best is enough. Even not your best is enough. Because they've come on their journey with their core that was already them. All we're doing is adding the padding. So, I'm sure you're already doing a great job. Okay, with that we conclude. I have some books on parenting, although you're at the tail end of it. We also have the Bhagavatam and the Ramayana kept there. If there's something you want to read on a daily basis as your dose of satsang, it is said that we should have heard or read the whole Bhagavatam once before we die. So we have a copy of it there. And Ramayan's also incredibly beautiful to read the story. So you can have a look before you leave. There's regular classes for kids. We don't have too many teenagers at the moment, but we have a teenage workshop coming up. I don't know if you saw that flyer. When is it? Feb 3rd. This Saturday? Yep. So please do send your teenagers this Saturday for the workshop. And I hope to be able to give them like at least doses. So like they don't have a regular class, but if we could do like 4 or 5 where they come in workshops a year, that's at least something. So please do send them so they can get a dose. And for yourself as well, there's regular classes. Or you can just listen to the podcast. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukha bhag bhavet, asato ma satkamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. So, sorry, one more thing I remembered while I was doing the prayers. When they say things to hurt y'all, like you said, it hurts. The best way for you to cope is to remind yourself they just don't have the maturity. I mean, it might appear like they're doing it deliberately, and yes, some of them are doing it deliberately. Some of them are not doing it deliberately. But even the ones who are doing it deliberately, they don't really understand what they're doing. They don't have that maturity to know the amount of pain you feel. And just like we regret so much of what we did, one day they will too. And by then, we won't even have remembered. So in those moments where you hurt, or if you're upset and you're crying, thinking you're doing a terrible job, you're not. You're not doing a terrible job. You're doing probably a great job. And hello, they don't have the maturity to evaluate our performance. So don't give that much importance to what they say. They don't have the maturity. They only have the smartness, not the maturity. Okay. Thank you all for coming.